Welcome to Brainish English Stories.
I never could understand how Tom Hopkins made that big mistake. He had studied for a whole term at a medical school before he got his aunt's money, and he was good at medicine. We had been visiting someone together that evening, and afterward, Tom came to my place for a smoke and a chat before going to his own fancy home. I went into the other room for a moment when I heard Tom say loudly, "Oh, Billy, I'm going to take about 4 grains of quinine if you don't mind. I feel all cold and shaky. I think I'm getting a cold." "All right," I called back. "The bottle is on the second shelf. Take it with a spoonful of that eucalyptus elixir. It makes it taste less bitter." After I came back, we sat by the fire and started smoking. In about 8 minutes, Tom sank back and looked very weak. I went straight to the medicine cabinet and looked. "You silly fool," I said angrily. "See what money does to a man's brain." There was the morphine bottle with the stopper off, just as Tom had left it. I got another young doctor who lived upstairs and sent him to get old Dr. Gales, who lived nearby. Tom Hopkins had too much money to be treated by young doctors alone. When Gales came, we treated Tom with the best care we could. After using some strong treatments, we gave him caffeine and strong coffee often and walked him up and down the floor between us. Old Gales pinched him and slapped his face and worked hard for the big payment he could expect. The young doctor from upstairs gave Tom a big, hard kick and then said sorry to me. "Couldn't help it," he said. "I never kicked a rich man before in my life. I may never have another chance." "Now," said Dr. Gales after a couple of hours, "he'll be okay, but keep him awake for another hour. You can do that by talking to him and shaking him sometimes. When his heartbeat and breathing are normal, then let him sleep. I'll leave him with you now." I was left alone with Tom, who we had laid on a couch. He lay very still, and his eyes were half closed. I began my job of keeping him awake. "Well, old friend," I said, "you had a close call, but we saved you. When you were in school, Tom, didn't any of the teachers ever say that LRPHIA does not spell quinine? Especially in 4-grain doses. But I won't tease you until you feel better. But you should have been a pharmacist, Tom. You are really good at giving out medicines." Tom looked at me with a weak and silly smile. "Billy," he mumbled, "I feel just like a bird flying around a lot of expensive roses. Don't bother me. Going to sleep now." And he went to sleep in 2 seconds. I shook him by the shoulder. "Now, Tom," I said seriously, "this won't do. The big doctor said you must stay awake for at least an hour. Open your eyes. You're not safe yet, you know. Wake up." Tom Hopkins weighs 198 pounds. He gave me another sleepy smile and fell into deeper sleep. I would have made him move around, but I might as well have tried to make a statue dance with me. Tom's breathing became noisy, and that, with morphia poisoning, means danger. Then I began to think. I could not wake his body. I must try to wake his mind. Make him angry was an idea that came to me. Good, I thought. But how? There was not a weak spot in Tom. Dear old fellow. He was very kind and a true gentleman, fine and good. He came from somewhere down south where they still have ideals and rules. New York had charmed, but had not spoiled him. He had that old-fashioned respect for women, that eureka! There was my idea. I thought about it for a minute or two. I laughed to myself at the thought of trying this on old Tom Hopkins. Then I took him by the shoulder and shook him until his ears flopped. He opened his eyes slowly. I looked at him with scorn and pointed my finger close to his nose. "Listen to me, Hopkins," I said, in a sharp and clear voice. "You and I have been good friends, but I want you to know that from now on my doors are closed to any man who acts as badly as you have." Tom looked a little bit interested. "What's wrong, Billy?" he muttered calmly. "Don't your clothes fit you?" "If I were you," I went on. "Thank God I am not. I would be scared to close my eyes. What about that girl you left waiting for you down in the lonely southern pines? The girl you forgot since you got all your money. Oh, I know what I'm talking about. When you were a poor medical student, she was good enough for you. But now, since you are rich, it's different. I wonder what she thinks about southern gentlemen like you. I'm sorry, Hopkins, that I had to talk about these things. But you've hidden it so well and acted so nicely that I would have thought you were better than this." Poor Tom. I almost laughed seeing him struggle against the drug. He was very angry, and I didn't blame him. Tom had a southern temper. His eyes were open now, and they showed some anger. But the drug still made his mind cloudy and tied his tongue. "CC confound you," he stammered. "I'll smash you." He tried to get up from the couch. Even with his big size, he was very weak now. I pushed him back with one arm. He lay there glaring like a trapped lion. "That will keep you still for a while, you old fool," I said to myself. I got up and lit my pipe, needing a smoke. I walked around a bit, happy with my smart idea. I heard a snore. I looked around. Tom was asleep again. I walked over and punched him on the jaw. He looked at me as nicely as an idiot. I chewed my pipe and spoke harshly to him. "I want you to wake up and get out of my rooms as soon as you can," I said rudely. "I've told you what I think of you. If you have any honor left, you will think twice before you try to be friends with gentlemen again." "She's a poor girl, isn't she?" I sneered. "Too plain and unfashionable for us since we got our money. You'd be ashamed to walk with her on Fifth Avenue, wouldn't you? Hopkins, you're much worse than a bad man. Who cares for your money? I don't. I'll bet that girl doesn't. Maybe if you didn't have it, you'd be more of a man. As it is, you've made yourself a bad person, and I thought this was dramatic. Maybe broken a loyal heart. Old Tom Hopkins breaking a loyal heart. Let me be rid of you as soon as possible." I turned my back on Tom and winked at myself in a mirror. I heard him moving, and I turned around quickly. I didn't want 198 pounds falling on me from behind. But Tom had only turned partly over and put one arm across his face. He spoke a few words more clearly than before. "I couldn't have talked this way to you, Billy, even if I'd heard people lying about you. But as soon as I can stand up, I'll break your neck. Don't forget it." I did feel a little ashamed then, but it was to save Tom. In the morning, when I explained it, we would laugh about it together. In about 20 minutes, Tom fell into a deep, easy sleep. I felt his pulse, listened to his breathing, and let him sleep. Everything was normal and Tom was safe. I went into the other room and went to bed. I found Tom up and dressed when I woke up the next morning. He was himself again, except for shaky nerves and a dry mouth. "What an idiot I was," he said thoughtfully. "I remember thinking that quinine bottle looked strange while I was taking the dose. Did you have much trouble bringing me round?" I told him no. His memory seemed bad about the whole thing. I thought he didn't remember my efforts to keep him awake and decided not to tell him. Some other time, I thought, when he was feeling better, we would have some fun over it. When Tom was ready to go, he stopped, with the door open, and shook my hand. "Thank you, old friend," he said quietly, "for taking so much trouble with me and for what you said. I'm going down now to send a message to the girl."